going on, guys? Nadeska, Akademiks, and Wayno here on Thursday, Friday, here at Everyday Struggle.
Good morning, y'all. What's the deal?
Why do we call it Thursday, Friday?
Because we off on Friday.
It's Thursdays, though.
Okay, whatever, Akademiks.
It's our Friday. Here, at least.
It's almost the end of our week. That's the point of it.
Right.
Hope you guys have had a great week so far. We're going to start with some bad news this morning. Legal update. We've been talking about A$AP Rocky. He's been locked up for about 3 weeks in Sweden. And according to the New York Times, they're now officially charging him with assault. So he's going to stay in custody until his trial begins next Tuesday. So Stockholm's public prosecutor said in a statement that they will proceed with Rocky's case, quote, despite claims of self-defense and provocation. So 2 members of his entourage are also going to face trial for the same charges. And according to a spokeswoman, if Rocky is convicted, he could be fined based on his daily earnings or face a maximum sentence of 2 years in prison. So just before this, Ferg had said that he spoke to Rocky and he was in good spirits, but assuming this happened before they decided to officially charge him, unfortunately. So crazy. Yeah, we said the other guy is completely cleared. So Trump getting involved definitely did not seem to help.
Yeah, well, Trump, I think Trump was trying to allow him to get bail while this process is going on, which that doesn't seem to be the case either. But I kind of expected this to happen. They're not going to just keep you in custody. But oh yeah, go ahead. You have no liability here. I'm wondering how the sentencing is going to go and how they're going to really even judge the case. I never saw a video or like pictures of the guys who were involved in the fight afterwards, because the way this is being treated, it seems like it's a brutal beating. You get me? And again, we saw pictures and videos of, you know, them telling the guys like, yo, leave us alone. And then we saw like a video of him kind of like throwing one guy to the ground. And that didn't seem like too much, but the way they're treating this is like, I don't know, man, maybe one of these guys got like a broken rib or something. I don't know, because this seems too much. Again, also, I was kind of looking around to see what's the usual like sentence for something like this if it's taking a trial. I think the 2 years thing is overblown, but still, I think being locked up for 3 weeks anyway might be a little bit excessive in the first place. So, whatever happens, I'm hoping even at worst he gets time served because he's already been in there 3 weeks and he just gets out after this process. But who knows? Sweden's tripping.
They don't have nothing for like first-time offenders out there, nothing like that.
Sure.
Because I mean, like, this is probably like his first time ever getting in any type of trouble out there, right? But this is another reason why, like, as a hip hop community, no, we can't ban a whole country, but this is we should stand together to say we support Rocky and not doing shows, no matter how much money somebody may or may not have for us. You know, I mean, that's the problem that we have is like every time when it comes to something where we should like take a stance, everybody's like, well, that's their situation or that situation, but like to see this off of one little small to big altercation, a lot of people going to second guess how they act, you know, being out overseas. Same way how everybody wanted Future to fucking turn into the Ultimate Warrior once he got into something. Imagine if he would have fought one of these dudes. Like, you know, I mean, it's not the same place, but their policies and their laws is way different than over here. Like, if you was anywhere in America, you would have been out in like a day.
Right.
You know?
I mean, yeah, clearly their legal system is different than ours. Going to be curious to see how long the trial takes and sort of like, is he just going to have one lawyer? Who's presenting other evidence in the case? Like the guy who got cleared, is he coming to court or is he good? Because, you know what I mean? It's all pretty confusing, but I guess we find out once it starts.
I'm trying to figure out how the web of, so they've been investigating it. So it took time to investigate it. Now they have enough. Again, I don't know if there was
3 weeks to investigate a street fight.
Again, in the United States, if you're doing all that, usually there might be a grand jury and all that. I don't know if they do that in Sweden, but I do know they raided the hotel of his manager, like Rocky's manager, searched his phone. And if they're doing all that for just text messages and stuff like that, this seems more than just a fight. It seems like it's not just something that happened in the moment.
What, something was premeditated?
I don't know. Like,
I mean, how could it be premeditated? That like, if you're then going that far to investigate and look for evidence, that's beyond that moment, right? So maybe text that was sent after or sent before. It then tells me that maybe this isn't just only about a fight. Again, I don't know. It seems too excessive. It just seems too excessive. I mean, But then again, like, what else could it be about? I think that at this point they're just trying to make an example out of Rocky.
Yeah.
Because with every hypothetical scenario, like, they couldn't have foreseen two guys walking down the block. They didn't stage nothing like this. It's like, it just seems like they got a target out for rappers who are in their country, or they're just not tolerating foreigners being in their country, I guess, acting up or whatever the case may be. Because in any fight, whether you get beat up or not, like in assault charges, usually the person who you had to fight with gets charged too, and they just say, listen, do y'all want to press charges against each other? All right, nobody does, y'all both could go home. So, like, is the kid who got beat up, are they pressing charges against Rocky?
From what I've seen, the assault, like, it varies in degrees of assault, right? So, Jeezy, who used himself as an example, said, yo, I got locked up for assault and some other shit, and I got out in a day. But that was different than this one. And from, again, this is just an amateur just like reading shit on the internet like me, obviously. Just trying to figure out what the fuck. But apparently the self-defense thing turns into like some others. It's just super weird to me again.
Did Jeezy say what happened in his case specifically? Was it something similar, incident with some random person on the street kind of thing?
Well, it wasn't a random person on the street kind of thing, but it was an altercation. And again,
but he was able to claim self-defense, because they like to say, again, if you're returning more force than you receive, then you become the aggressor.
Yeah,
right?
But if you feel like, what are you supposed to do when, like, I don't know, yo, that shit is just weird to me.
No, in his case, it wasn't like, oh, let's just claim self-defense. It was just, hey, we're gonna resolve this as a street fight.
But Roger's saying he was still charged with assault. So then, was he fined? He clearly didn't go to prison.
The complexion for
Oh,
the
man.
Well,
Might just be
I'm
racism,
also
y'all.
looking into this, right? You know, I don't know if they take these things into account or if it's even legal, which, again, I don't know the laws of Sweden. But, you know, like, for example, a lot of times going into Canada or going to the UK, they'll already say, nigga, based on your record, we good. You can't come over here.
Right.
I don't know if, and I don't know if Rocky has any record in the United States.
He does.
Okay. But I don't know if that also plays a part into, hey, listen, us letting you into the country,
Yeah.
we already knew you were either high risk or you had other issues. Now you came over here and you're charged with some shit. And regardless of what you're charged with, now we got you on some bullshit here.
Yeah.
We about to go a little bit harder. That's the only way I could just explain it not being blatant racism, which it would obviously, again, I was looking, I'm like, what's the difference between this G-Eazy thing and this? Again, both were fights. Both were fights. There's nothing that I could point out different. Both were fights. Jeezy ain't even going in on some like, yo, it was just like, yeah, it was a fight, what's up? They're like, all right, cool, pay this fine. You be out of here tomorrow, cool. With Rocky's like, all right, stay in jail 3 weeks, and we're gonna do a trial, and we're gonna get you for 2 years if we get you. Like, it sounds crazy to me.
But at Sweden, I don't know people who frequent Sweden, but I mean with Canada, you know, like they policies on getting in and not getting in.
But you can't even come in, right?
Yeah,
They let him in.
They deport my man had a former gun charge from years ago, and what I learned about going to Canada is when you get there and you can't get in, they don't just let you say, all right, you can leave. We had to sit there for like 4.5 hours, and then they deported him and made him walk across the Rainbow Bridge by himself. You know what I mean? In the middle of the night. So like.
Middle of the night. It seems like they make you walk the plank or some shit.
Yeah, that shit is crazy. I don't know. Like, we not like that. We're getting in here. Like,
again, a lot of, you know, we've talked about this a bunch of times, and a lot of like people from Sweden who do watch the show, they hit me up and they were trying to give their explanation. And some people a little bit familiar with the law was also trying to give their explanation, and they're from Sweden. And pretty much their interpretation, which I think that's the missing piece that makes us all so confused. They're saying for them to be treating it like this, again, the self-defense thing has to be out of the picture, and Rocky and his team had to go above and beyond and beating.
They have it like as a gang assault or some shit like
that.
Like
Almost like it's being seen as that. Again, that's why I'm trying to see, like, if they dropped a picture of that kid's face, it looking crazy.
Look, people of Sweden, somebody must know somebody who knows something. Who's the academics of Sweden? We need answers. Please, hit us over the weekend. This is getting ridiculous.
Shit, I ain't gonna lie, we might have just hit up the 2 niggas that they were fighting.
Where are those dudes? Who are
chilling.
they? Yeah.
They home.
Right.
No, they chilling. They probably waiting for a lawsuit.
It's ridiculous.
So where are we living?
All right, man. Unfortunate update. But anyway, the trial starts next Tuesday. Hopefully this does not end with prison time. It seems a bit outrageous. But,
Yeah.
we'll follow up next week, see if we have any more details. But yeah, for real, if you guys know anything and you're out there, please hit us. We don't want to be uneducated just speculating over here all the time. So last weekend, you guys know that Wayno and I were at ComplexCon. Akademiks did abandon us.
Yes, we did.
So we went out and spoke to the fans.
Dish me.
Man, these two sit here and debate for hours every week, so we really wanted to hear sort of what people thought about all the music that was dropping this year. So we asked a lot of people a few questions, including what they thought was the song of the summer. Take a look.
What do you think is the undeniable hit of the year so far?
I mean, the undeniable hit of the summer is like Baby and Megan Thee Stallion or something like that. I'm guessing one of them hot girl songs or something like that. That's like the big thing for right now. For the
Old
summer.
Town Road?
Yeah.
He's not having it. What is song of the summer?
Song of the summer. Woo!
Aha!
Good one.
Stumped.
You know what? Listen, I don't necessarily like it, but Old Town Road is just playing everywhere. You can't not sing it.
The
It's the song of the year?
remix or
Not
the
song of
original
year,
though?
but it's song of the summer.
If it's
for
not
sure.
song of the year, what would be song of the year?
All right, song of the
Exactly.
That's
Old Town
hard. That's a
Road.
little harder. That's a little bit harder.
That joint Wale just dropped, One Chill, with Jeremiah.
Yeah.
I think that's song of the summer.
That's a
If you
very
haven't listened
strong
to it,
record.
check it out. One Chill, Wale, Jeremiah.
Yeah.
Go peep that.
Song of the summer. What are you hearing when you're out in the club?
I'll give it to Lil Nas.
Sounds like
Realistically, he is killing it right now.
Song of the summer, of course, it's Old Town Road.
Okay.
If you have a brain, that's just what it is.
Yeah, what's the song that you feel like you've just been hearing everywhere? You can't get away from it.
Shook, the baby.
Yeah, okay.
Sacrifices, though.
Wow, for
That's your favorite song of the year.
Yeah, it gives you chills when you listen
Hey,
to
hey,
it.
Des,
no
listen.
cap.
We got to make a campaign for Sacrifice to get a
Yeah.
video or something because
I
we all
thought I
loving
was
it.
alone out
I
here.
love that
You
song.
get goosebumps when you listen to it, man.
It's
Saba killed that.
It's a great song.
Old Town Road, no, I'm joking.
No, don't be.
Are you really joking?
A lot of
I
people
mean-
pick that song.
That's not my song. I'd say Tap, Nav, and Meek Mill.
Tap. That just.
I gotta give it to the ladies, city girls. Y'all running it right now.
All right, so song of the summer. Some people also threw in song of the year. I saw Akademiks roll his eyes about 5 times during this segment and gave 1 nod of approval. What's up, Ak?
Song of the year, I get the people who say Lil Nas, but man, are we really talking about Lil Nas? Like, especially like we were just campaigning for that to be the country song. Let the country niggas go debate that. What about the hip hop song of the summer?
What's your pick? Song of the summer.
Song of the summer, I'm definitely going with Act Up by City Girls. That shit just brings a different energy when it drops. Either that or the Baby Shook. When that shit come on, bringing a different energy. Like you could, it's easily identifiable when the song of the summer or the song of that time that's like really shifting shit drops. And when both of those songs like is played anywhere where a lot of people are at, trust me, people start acting a little bit different.
I would go with mine's being the Baby Suge. And the thing about that is like, you know, it didn't even come out in the summer. That shit came out when it was still kind of cold, right? When did the Baby's album drop? Like, it dropped like earlier in the year.
Same for City Girls, though. That song's been out for a minute.
Yeah, it has. But yeah, between those two, definitely between those two.
The other day I was doing on my show sort of looking back at songs of the summer. Like sort of what are the biggest ones for the past 5 years. So like obviously like Unforgettable, Loyal. Remember Trap Queen? That was probably one of the biggest songs of the summer ever. Bobby. New York had some hits for a while.
I ain't gonna lie, Fetty had it lit. Fetty had it lit.
And that took a whole
Yeah.
year to like blow
Shit,
up,
My
and then it was
Way
number 1
was-
for
yeah.
weeks. Yeah.
Fetty had it lit. Now, I ain't gonna lie, I remember I was in Cali when I first heard My Way. And then I heard the remix out there too. It's crazy. But yeah, like, I mean, this year, I think a lot of people expected the record that was, you know, there's always a song for the summer. I think they expected that record to be dropped like right before the summer, but a lot of times, this year it felt like the record was dropped earlier. It just
Yeah.
continued to the summer.
Right.
Yeah.
You get
It's
me?
been a
Like,
slow
I ain't gonna lie.
summer for music.
You did predict that
What?
Uptown, wow, Meek was Uptown?
Uptown Vibes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You did predict that was, is it ringing off?
It's not ringing off the way I thought it would.
All right.
It's not
But
ringing off the way I thought it would.
I'm not gonna lie. Again, it's a lot of artists who we thought were keeping the momentum. I think with City Girls, this whole Hot Girls versus City Boys shit, great promotion for her and Megan Thee Stallion, who basically their music and a lot of stuff they talk about continues that theme. that's why Act Up still rides out today.
Yeah.
And of course, Old Time Road's it's breaking records today. Like you can't like I
Can't
want to
deny
you gotta
it,
get
yeah.
that out of the conversation.
Yeah.
Man. Like that's like a cheat code. But the baby, what we're realizing with like a lot of his music, you're right. Like it's been out mad long, but it's still penetrating and finding new audiences because people are still finding out about him.
Right.
Right. And you know it's kind of it's working to shake some of the at least for me, at least my theory that some of the antics might be just like overshadowing it because the music's still
The music is still living. Yeah,
so
yeah.
That's good.
I think that's why I feel about like Megan Thee Stallion's music. I feel like it's gonna be like after this whole rollout, the XXL shit and everything, and maybe she comes back with another record or she comes back with another project. That's when it's really gonna take off. You know what I mean? Kind of like the baby. You know, like his shit has kind of been like a slow burn. You know what I mean? But it's like it's popped so big now. Like he had it. Suge was what, top 10, right? Mm-hmm. Top 10 on Hot 100.
The funny and interesting thing about like this year,
Mm-hmm.
right, is that when we think about like songs of the summer, and again, that's a little bit different than song of the year.
Right.
But you know, like song of the summer, you usually expect it from a few names, that is very well known. You know, the baby just came on the scene, and City Girls, they've been doing their thing, of course, but like last year into this year, they're kind of coming into themselves. So that's why I think like we're having this debate, like, what are the songs of the summer? But if it was a Drake, we'd be like, yo, clearly it's whatever, right? Like
But
last.
you know what I want real quick. You know what I want? I want to be a song of the summer, and it hasn't really taken off like that. The joint with Chris Brown and Drake. I ain't gonna front. That song is fire. That shit is really fire.
I hear you say this before. We talked
What?
about this.
No, he always liked the song.
I did like the
You both
song.
liked it a lot when it dropped.
No guidance?
Yeah.
Yeah, that
remember
shit is
this.
fire. I ain't gonna front. That shit is fire. But it seems like everybody else has been holding it down, so it hasn't gotten there yet.
That's what I'm telling you, man. Breezy put out the album. Breezy got to snuff Drake for that, though. I'm not going to lie, though. Even for that song.
You said what?
Drake, that last minute and a half that Drake does, that he's trying to outshine you in your own song. I'm not doing it.
Isn't that what he generally does?
Yeah, but like the beat switch, he's doing a little bit too much. You got to tell that nigga to cut it off. Trust me.
Oh, man.
But that song's fire as well.
Yeah,
I ain't gonna lie. Like anytime around any group of women, they love that song. That's their number one song.
You know what I would love to see? Act in the club when Act Up drops.
I don't.
Yeah, he probably starts
Could you please spare me from that?
I kid you not. Listen, because I'm a truthful person and I got no shame. When that does drop,
Truthful has no shame.
Of course,
Where's this going?
These are
all the ratchets, they run, like, trust me. All
You
the
run with
ratchets.
them?
All the ratchets.
Yo.
You see a bunch of chicks with frontals, they're running towards the fucking.
And what are you doing?
I ain't gonna lie, I'm singing the lyrics, but I gotta mumble it.
You were singing the lyrics.
But I'm editing it because that's what I'm saying. I can't sing. So I gotta edit it while I like rap.
What do you
it,
edit?
though.
Scamming parts?
No, like this is a real ass. Nah.
Real ass bitch give a fuck about a nigga.
Edits
I
themselves in
can't
the
say real
club.
ass. So I can't say I'm a real ass bitch.
Yo, you
So
definitely
why
have
not?
said that before in the club. Someone has
I
fucking
can
evidence of
definitely, in the
this.
shower listening to that, you definitely pulled that one off.
Yo.
But that's a song that's appreciated with time for me.
Yo, if anyone catches him out in the club,
Please
singing
get us a
along
video.
to this.
Please get us a
Me
video.
and Yachty gonna be somewhere in some club vibing out to that. What's the problem?
What's the problem? All right, y'all. All right, so it's time for our trip down memory lane this week in hip hop. So on July 25th, 2006, Pharrell dropped his solo debut album, In My Mind. So a lot of great features on this: Jeezy, GWEN, STEFANI, Snoop, Pusha, KANYE, and it was, of course, entirely produced by Pharrell. The big singles from this were Can I Have It Like That and number one with Ye. Debuted at number 3, nominated for Best Rap Album at the 2007 Grammy Awards.
One of my favorite albums ever. My favorite song on this album is You Can Do It Too. I modeled a lot of my life off of that record. This you know what, this album kind of defined a small, I wouldn't say a big era, but it was kind of slept on. I feel like streetwear was brought into the forefront of mainstream with this album because you started seeing how Pharrell, he implemented the whole Bape shit on his cover. Then, you know, Kanye and all his fashion shit. Number one was like, it was like a Louis Vuitton commercial.
So wait, this was your style guide album?
No, it was definitely not my style guy album. I remember.
This is how the Harlem niggas was coming?
No, this is not how all niggas was coming. But I'm not gonna lie, yo, this shit opened up. This was one of the albums because I was I'm a big Neptune, Star Trek baby. I loved everything that they had for a long time. But this is the album that kind of like opened Pharrell up to, I wouldn't say street shit, because it's not no street shit on this album, but it kind of made it cool, like with streetwear. Like streetwear, I started to get more into streetwear because of this album, because the first time I ever heard it, I was at like Atmos, or I heard it, Can I Have It Like That? I was at Atmos in Harlem, and that was a streetwear spot. I had no idea, like, the type of direction that they was going, like switching with fashion. But this album kind of defined that era of like colorfulness. I mean, after this, Lil Wayne started wearing all the Bape shit, and you know what I mean? Like, this defines a small era in time. But this is one of my favorite like albums.
Okay.
Honestly, when this dropped back then, I didn't get it. It didn't touch a nerve with me.
Really?
It appreciated with time.
Not the singles, nothing?
They were hype, to be honest. I think the project, and really, just even Pharrell in just him as a solo artist, you know, he's a great producer, and of course, we know about Neptunes and everything, but I think this project, at least for me, after seeing how, like, you know, culture shifted, it meant a lot to maybe a community I wasn't in tune with. And, you know, seeing how, you know, the influence that came from just, like, the Pharrells of the world, that kind of, you know what I mean, as he was saying with streetwear, and this kind of became like almost like an intro to that became such a huge thing in the culture. I started to appreciate the album more. But at the time, I didn't give two fucks about this. I got to be honest.
Right.
Like, I used to be like, yo, listen.
I mean, he was really young at that time too, right?
No, but these songs, a lot of
we're
the
about to talk about
songs,
another album. But like, again, I
songs were
wasn't
really
that
big.
type of guy. So like, it didn't.
Yeah.
you were
know
into
what I mean?
street music at the time. Is that what you're saying?
That was just only the game. Like, the other one that we
Okay.
about to talk about is Jeezy. Come on.
Yeah.
So,
All right.
So I remember when this dropped, I was like, yo, Pharrell, stick to just like giving Snoop Dogg some hits, bro.
Oh, nah, you tripping.
I didn't know
You tripping.
anyone. I didn't know
gotta be
anyone
honest.
felt like that at that time.
But you know what, another thing too, because you can't talk about this without talking about, I think it was the Star Trek Gangsta Girls tape that came out as well. But that's what I'm saying, like this right here, this birthed a lot of babies. You know what I mean? Like, this birthed a lot of babies where without this album, you don't get a Lupe Fiasco's.
Right.
You know what I mean? Not the cool Food and Liquor. You know what I mean? Like, just the direction that they have from style and aesthetic, you seen a lot of that shit. Everything they was doing. I think that was kind of like the start of Pusha and Wayne's beef, because remember they were saying that they was wearing all the Bape shit first, and then Wayne started doing it, and they was stealing each other's styles.
That's where that started?
That's one
I've
of the
lost
points.
track. Okay.
Nah, it's one. I think it's one of the points within their whole entire argument. I'm pretty sure it's a lot of different things, but this album defines like an era of sound. It defines an era of fashion. It defines like a bunch of different things.
Got it.
A bunch of different things.
Very interesting.
Collaboration
And
too.
that's what I'm saying. That's why I appreciate it, because at the time I didn't get it.
No, I mean the skateboarding and the fashion,
now
I understand,
do.
but I just
Back
thought.
then I used to live like, what are they talking about?
I just thought it was so
Turn
big
on that-
regardless.
turn on that-
It was
turn
like
on-
pop at the time almost. I just felt like it was big. This was everywhere.
I mean, there were certain songs or singles that like you like cool, but like I just couldn't get. I'm like, what the fuck is this skateboard P?
But
Like, what
I
are
was
you
about to
talking
say that
bro?
too though. He made the skateboard culture really dope in the streets, because Supreme had always been around. I mean, they wasn't rocking Supreme, but Supreme had always been around, and street niggas wasn't wearing that shit. Once they started seeing like Pharrell throwing that shit on, and well, I say Odd Future, like in 2011, they really popped Supreme off, but like niggas wasn't niggas in the street wasn't fucking with Bape. But once they started seeing, you know, with the streets identify with price points. So once they started seeing $500 sneakers, and that's another thing, even going into Jeezy, right? Because we about to talk about Jeezy next. Remember, I'm a Bathing Ape, I'm a Bathing Ape fanatic, Red Monkey junkie. Like, Jeezy even got into that whole wave because of them starting this shit. You know?
All right. That's cool though. At least it
Soulja
grew on you
Boy, I got me
later.
some Bathing Apes. Like, for real, this was a big time.
All right, look, this is the one Ac's been waiting for this week in hip hop. July 26, 2005, Jeezy dropped his debut, Thug Motivation 101. 19 songs, features from Jay, Manny Fresh, Bun B, T.I., and more. Production from Shawty Red, Drummer Boy, Don Cannon, Mr. Collie Park, and more. So this debuted at number 2, Soul Survivor, Go Crazy. My Hood Big Singles. I feel like none of you are going to dispute that this is a classic album.
Oh, undeniable classic. Undeniable classic. I want to hear Axe thoughts, but like one thing I say about this album, like this when BMF was outside in the streets. The first time I ever went to Miami, I had seen Jeezy. They was running around with the whole snowman campaign. The snowman was like, remember kids was getting in trouble for wearing that shit to school? You know what I mean? But just like seeing BMF in Miami and Jeezy running around that time, like this was a crazy I think this album affected everybody across all of America. Everybody.
It was a wave when Jeezy dropped this. What was the name of the group that he was rocking with right before?
Boys in the Hood.
Boys in the Hood. This was a stamp that he had arrived. And by the way, shit, he had a fucking feature with Jay-Z on the shit after this is around 2005 when Jay-Z did the retirement shit, but he came back with Black Album around that time.
No, Black Album was 2003. 2005 was when he became the president of Def Jam.
Okay, but he wasn't dropping that much music.
No.
And I'm this whole project, you couldn't go nowhere without hearing it.
Right.
And at least, you know, again, Jeezy's a nigga from the South. Be it in New York or me, I live in Jersey. It felt like this was like the definition of real. Like, that's what it is. Shorty Red literally, I'm being honest.
I'm not disputing, I just like to hear how act talk about music like this.
Like, yo, Shorty Red was like lacing him with these beats that it felt like tailor-made for him. And honestly, I think TM102 also is a classic.
Shorty Red was on this album?
Yeah, he produced on it.
Yeah.
He produced on this joint. Yeah. Like, I think that's what got Shorty Red kind of like.
That's what kind of got him. He was the next new young guy.
Yeah, we knew the sound between them.
Right.
And
he didn't have his tag around that time. That's the only thing. He didn't have his tag.
Soul Survivor, there was so many remixes, shit. There's even a dancehall mix of that shit that's fire.
Absolutely.
I mean, like, Go Crazy, The Sky's the Limit joint.
Trap or Die.
Trap or Die. And again, we're just looking at the track list.
But Ak, you know you can't talk about this without talking about
Air
Trap or
Forces.
Die. Trap or Die, the mixtape with DJ Drama. Like, because you know that was like the prequel to this. Like, that was such a big piece of this album. Like, that campaign that they ran. I haven't seen, I can honestly say, like, I haven't seen like a run, an introduction for an artist to have like 2 projects back to back that was classics as good as they was with Trap or Die and Thug Motivation. Like,
you know what's funny too? Like, I think it was years later. How old was I? 2005. But like, it was years later that I kind of like understood. Like, you could tell, at least back then, like niggas that was making street music. Like nowadays, niggas make street music and it's just some.
They're not in the street. A lot of kids make street music.
They're either not in the street or you can't tell if it's real or some goofy shit.
Or it's too real. Like the conversation we had yesterday.
Right, it's too real.
But like, you could, like, there was a presence, it felt like, with Jeezy every time you saw him. Even on, you didn't even have to be in the streets to see it. Like, you would see that presence of how Jeezy was moving and how he was influencing people from
Smack DVDs, man.
Just having everybody trying to wear the little snowman t-shirts and all that. It felt super different. And like, I felt like he was a part of that. Like, there was a wave that was after T.I. kind of came out. Well, definitely after T.I. came out. And it was just a wave of, you saw these real ass niggas, it seemed, from like Atlanta, whatever. And they were kind of like in the industry just on some thug shit more than just rap. The music was good too, but it felt like there was a lot of real shit behind it. And it was showing you how Southern niggas was giving it up. You get me? I remember he had said some shit about like but I don't know if it was this particular album.
What?
I remember Googling, nigga, I don't know nothing about selling whatever, but I'm Googling like, what's the, because he kept.
Pyrex? You talking about a Pyrex?
Nah, he was comparing it to like the jersey numbers of like basketball players.
Oh, I know you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
But
that's
like,
not. Yeah, that's.
No, it's not this album.
It's not
Definitely
this
not.
at all. I know exactly what you're talking about.
This whole album is obviously a classic.
Yeah.
Obviously a classic. By the way, one thing that Jeezy's always slept on.
Talking about Kobe, LeBron. Remember that? Kobe, LeBron.
Yeah.
Kobe. Yeah.
One thing that was always slept on by Jeezy is that Jeezy always got one of the low-key best intros.
Oh no, he has the greatest. Yo, Jeezy has the greatest intros. I think he has like every project has the most consistent intro. Even the what was the shit? The USDA album. That was it. Corporate Thuggin'? Was Corporate Thuggin' the intro on the CT album? I can't remember. But Jeezy intros have saved lives, for real, and built character, for real.
The intro for 103 be like, you know the world been waiting.
Yeah, no, every
waiting
intro.
For 103.
Can't ban the Snowman intro. Fucking TM102. Like, I mean, Jeezy's just we got to give Jeezy his flowers while he's here, for real. He's one of those artists.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yo, let's do this fan question real quick. I feel like we've addressed this on the show, but maybe it's been like 2 years ago. So after the whole DS2, is it a classic or not fiasco, and then Ak sort of changing his mind, and then you could agree on like TM101. So hey guys, my question is for Ak. What criteria do you look at when deeming a body of work a classic or not? And how big of a part do you think having a cohesive album plays in being called a classic? So for DS2, you seem to sort of like, I don't know, you were saying it wasn't cohesive enough at first. You were sort of downplaying the impact of the album a little. I don't know.
No, I didn't
clarify.
downplay the impact. Like, the impact was, of course, great and tremendous. It was a coming of age thing for Future, even though Future, like, to be honest, like, his career has been amazing, you know? I remember watching Future when he was, like, he was the guy basically fighting for credit on Racks with YC. You know what I mean? I remember him doing interviews like, yo, I wrote the record. And niggas looking at him, and I remember I even said
Looking like he was a hater or something.
Yeah, and I was like, yo, nobody cares about you doing interviews about it. If you're really good, do it again. And he did it again.
Tony Montana.
Tony Montana, what up? And he kept it going. He brought singing into the mix. He started writing for people. Him and Rihanna had shit. So when he went on those run, he went on that run and he did Beast Mode, Monster, 56 Nights, and then DS2 came, was a coming of age moment for me. This is the reason why I was doubting it being a classic. Okay. Because the moment, of course, was great, but because I was so in tune with Future's discography, I was liking other projects, like just strictly off just ranking songs. I was liking some of those other projects more than DS2, and I felt that everybody, I'm not gonna call a lot of people who like either got on the wave at that point, Dick Riders or whatever, but felt like a lot of people just be like, oh, this is the one that's being promoted the most, this is the best. And I'm like, stop. Right. If we're calling this a classic, we gotta call these other joints a classic, to me, which are better. So I had that same issue with Wayne.
Okay, before we get too deep into any album, right, because we've done this before, what is the general criteria? It can't just be for you. At the very least, it has to be for everyday struggle.
All right. So say, this is my criteria if we're just talking about.
And Wayno needs to agree.
You know, he probably won't agree. Like, premise of the show. For me, a classic has to have, at most, 2 skippables. Really should be none. You get me? There shouldn't be any skippables really on a classic album.
Thoughts?
It has to have impact of either changing shit from years to come. Like there's certain albums that either pave the way for other people, pave the way for a sound, and that's impact in itself. Or it could have impact in the moment, like a DS2.
Okay.
Like there's multiple albums that once that like a Carter 3.
Right.
That's impact, right? So that's impact and...
Let's stop there. Let's all agree on impact, but let's go back to the skippables. Jesus.
Skippables, right? I would like to dispel this myth that every time somebody puts an album on that they don't skip something, because that's bullshit. You're skipping records depending upon how your day is going.
All right, so let's take that out of the equation, because that's a fact. You hush enough. Right. That's a fact, but not depending on your mood. But let's just say the first few times you're listening, songs that you deeply, genuinely dislike, that are not good.
Yeah, deeply, genuinely dislike.
Not depending on mood.
Means fillers.
There you go.
You know what album fillers are?
I mean,
album fillers are...
That's all relative, though. Like, so who's listening to it?
I mean, it's relative, but like it's usually not depending on how your day's going. It's just that you're like, in thinking about this album, whether it's
you never want to hear the song.
6 months.
Ak has this big deep dive on what makes a classic. You know what makes a classic for me? When it's a defining moment of time, right? When it's a defining moment of time, when you think of a body of work and you say, I can remember exactly what was going on everywhere. I can remember this moment. I can remember this year based on this music that came out, right? When you look at every classic album, and not comparing them, but I feel like, of course, Blueprint has done that. Mobb Deep's The Infamous, Biggie's...
But that's impact, which I agree with you, but doesn't it have to be more than that? You're also naming like great like lyrical bodies of work.
No, it's not. I'm not talking about it being lyrical. Wait, real quick.
Just impact.
Just impact and music. Of course, the music has to be great, right? Okay. The music has to be great, but it does have to have impact. But I'm talking about like it defines the time. It's tons of albums that could come out and be like, damn, I don't really remember, like, you know what I mean? What year was that?
Maybe quality is the word I'm looking
Quality.
for, not just
when
lyrics.
you think of Thug Motivation 101, you think of, all right, 2005. Is immediately you said, oh, what group was he in? You think of everything that was going on that year. You could probably think of who was winning in basketball, everything. You could think of that year. Music has to define time, and when you go back to it, it has to be timeless. So I feel like that's what makes it classic. As long as it's timeless, whenever you put that shit on, you feel the same exact way you felt the very first time you put it on. Every time I put on Good Kid, Mad City, I get the same feelings I felt the first time I ever heard this shit.
Defines a moment.
I agree with Timeless. Okay. Timeless is one of them. What I don't necessarily agree with is that the majority of what makes something a classic is that time, because there's a lot of.
I mean, I didn't say that.
What you said?
I'm saying defining.
If it say define the time that you can remember everything, a lot of the music, I feel like music in general defines time.
Do you feel like it has to have that impact as it dropped? I keep saying impact, maybe it's a different word. So Reasonable Doubt, right? We always talk about how when it dropped, it wasn't a super revered album. That took a while. So does that still fit in that criteria that you're talking about?
Somewhat. It doesn't have to be. So I'll say it doesn't have to be instant. See, all right, so every album that I used to, growing up, I used to have to read about an album before it came out. Now the album just comes out, it's no reviews and nothing, but the people that used to write about the album had the shit for 2 months before they even wrote their synopsis. So now, like, for me, I'm talking about now, right? Now, I gotta just feel a certain way. Before, it can grow over time. It can grow over time. It's certain shit that you go back to and you're like, damn, because what is it, Section 80? Section 80, I go back and I'm like, damn, I feel like this could potentially be a classic too, because it got better with time. There's certain albums that you go back and you're like, damn, like this shit sounded good when it came out, but it's certain songs that's like, But if you feel that same way every time you put it on.
Yeah, I was just saying about remembering, there's certain times in my life that either I gravitated to music or it just appealed to what was going on with me, that I remember every single moment. Doesn't mean the music was necessarily classic. It just meant the music was parallel. It was parallel in my life at that moment. Like I was going through some shit. Some songs was talking about some shit. Oh, great. You get me? Or it just could have been I was having a good old time, and these were the records that was talking about having a good old time.
So lastly, Desk, all I'm gonna relate like the timing thing to is think about Get Rich or Die Trying.
Right.
Like that album. It's a lot of great albums that came out that year. Philadelphia Freeway came out that year. The Black Album came out that year. This is all 2003. But that album, and Black Album was a classic too, but that album defines that whole fucking entire year.
Okay, so maybe that's a better definition, because what you just added like makes it a little bit more sort of like, like you said, it could just be an album that was great to you and defines a period in your life, not in like an era. I just want to see if we could come to some middle ground for the show.
That's what I thought Wayno was saying. Like, of course, like, but that's impact. So like, the albums that are considered or should be considered classic, if it doesn't either resonate to define that moment, but not only that, if it doesn't inspire others to come, that's what, is seen as a classic. I'm just saying, I know it can be how an album feels to you personally, because it makes it so subjective.
Exactly.
There's certain albums, like I ain't gonna lie, when I was studying a lot for like, just like trying to pass like finals at college. I was throwing on a lot of Common because I could only study the two things, Common and Chief Keef. Like, honestly.
Common, what Common album?
I used to listen to B and
B. All right, B. I was about to say like that's. I feel like B is a classic album.
It was weird. I would do math to that, and then when I was studying for like my chemistry class,
super unexpected.
I throw on Chief Keef because Chief Keef was saying the most ignorant nothing. You didn't have to think about his lyrics, so it was just kind of the enough background that I could focus on the work.
Well, I didn't think you listened to Common, so that's really good to know.
Of course.
All right, Ak. So I think we came to a consensus, sort of, perhaps? Maybe?
Somewhat.
Right.
I think we're laying out a blueprint, but it's really complicated because there is, even though we're trying to get out the subjectiveness, there is going to be subjective shit.
Okay.
You get me? If you're from a different type, like if you like street music, if you don't like street music and you like lyrical shit, it's shit. If you just into shit like Playboy Cardi or something.
I had to get out of my feelings. I had to get out of my feelings of like thinking that only music that could be classic was street music. Cause I felt like that for a long time. Like, man, these niggas ain't talking about that. That shit don't. Cause I can't tell a kid what that shit might mean to them or not.
So that's it for our classic albums conversation for this week. Let's end with some good news today. So on Wednesday, Meek Mill confirmed that he is officially no longer on probation, and he's been granted a new trial for his 2008 gun and drug charge. So he said, not a felon anymore. Today was mega. I never expect Meek to use words like that. The Philly DA said that their office still needs a little more time to decide whether or not to drop Meek's case entirely. Hopefully that happens. And his label Dreamchasers now has a home at Roc Nation. So the deal was apparently done on Tuesday morning. Him and Jay had a nice little press conference and stuff like that. We don't have time to show you guys the video, but congratulations to Meek. Some good things coming his way.
Congrats, Meek. That's major. You know what I mean? It's major to see him, like, mega, right? Mega. It's good to see things come full circle and him, like, really changing his life, because everybody criticized him and thought that he wouldn't be able to do this shit, and they just thought it was him making bad mistakes. Salute.
When are you getting your chain?
I don't know.
Meek, give this man a Dreamchasers chain. He supports you all day.
I don't know, like he gonna get one. You might not get one, bro.
I might not.
Yo, but I'm gonna say, yo, like, really congratulations to Meek. I've followed his story for like a couple of years. To see get to this point, like, this is really huge news. Especially like for a rapper to get this after, honestly, like, being like the people who lobbied for him, like whether it was politicians, whether it was billionaires, whether it was just people that just seen the injustice and just couldn't stand for it. You know, it's great that we're seeing some justice getting served here. One thing I'll say, I hope the Philly DA's office does what they should do expeditiously, which is toss out the case, honestly, because they were with Meek saying, hey, this case
It's gonna get tossed out.
should get dropped. So congratulations to him, and you know, it concludes a chapter in his life that has been just torturous.
I think he's very happy to put this behind him.
Torturous.
Legend.
I know. Good
I said
looks.
it.
Congratulations. Guys, enjoy your weekend. Send us more question.
Yes.
Everyday Shrug on Twitter with 2 Gs. We got to go.
We got to
See you guys here on Monday.